Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Moa aka Swedish Whiskey Girl, and I'm super excited to try the whiskies that I have in front of me today. So I have 5 samples from that boutique whiskey company, all international whiskies. So it's a whiskey from Paul John in India, one whiskey from Mackmyra in Sweden of course, one from Langatun in Switzerland, one from Nantou distillery in Taiwan, and finally one from Penderyn in Wales. And these are all part of the new batch release from that boutique whiskey company. They kind of readjusted their strategy, so from now on, I believe they're releasing all of their whiskies kind of in batches with a specific theme. But knowing that boutique whiskey company, they can of course make this theme as quirky or fun as they would like. And I think the little clue for the next one is that it's going to be ridiculous. So exciting about that one as well. And of course, following the success of their World Whiskey Day, if you haven't watched it, go back and have a little look because there's a lot of fun with so many fun guests. They have of course released this international series, and these are just some of them. They also have a lot of other ones, and they're all available on Master of Malt. And of course, if you're buying any of the bottles or anything else on Master of Malt, I would of course be absolutely over the moon if you consider using my affiliate links. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does mean a lot because it gives me a little bit of extra support. I of course think that boutique whiskey company are so much fun, and especially when they get really nerdy or they have these beautiful bottles, not bottles, but beautiful labels on their bottles that always have a fun little quirky twist, or they're telling a story. So while I'm talking about the whiskies, I'll try and put up their labels up here as well, so you can have a little look at them and see if you can spot why they've chosen to make the design that way. And before filming this, I probably should have chosen in what order to try them. Good question. But I think we'll start with the Penderyn. So the Penderyn that we're trying today is a 6-year-old that sits at 50% ABV, and then it's been matured in ex-muscatel cask. So let's start by having a look on the nose. Ooh, It's quite vegetal. It's my first note, but it's like a tropical vegetal note. Almost like if you're making a salad and you have like some rucola and some just lettuce in there and quite a green salad, but then maybe some pieces of papaya in it, so like quite a tropical green salad. It's definitely a tropical note coming through, and there's this really, really dense papaya note. It's definitely papaya. A little bit of citrus, like lemon peel. Very intriguing notes, but it's surrounded by this vegetal note. So if you like vegetal notes, you might find this one really intriguing. But let's have a little taste. Slanjava. It's more mango on the palate, especially like the finish. It just grows into this big earthy mango. Also a bit of that vegetal note on the palate, that kind of green, almost like it makes me think of rucola. I hope that's how you say it in English. Yeah, at least like these little green leaves that you can get on pizza or in salads or whatever. Because they have a slight bitterness to them, and that's what I'm getting. So tropical on the nose. Yes, a vegetal note along with a really tropical note, very much mango on the palate. But still papaya on the nose. Interesting. And it has a really, really lovely finish to it. I know it says a 50% ABV, so let's add a little bit of water just to see if it changes much. Even more citrus on the nose. And sweeter, like candy shop. Like in Sweden there's, I know this is not going to help anyone unless you're from Sweden, but in Sweden we have these little, almost like wine gums, and they're called tutti frutti. And the lemons, so the yellow ones, that's a bit what it makes me think of. Yeah, so like citrus wine gums perhaps. It's toned down the vegetal notes a little bit and brought out a little bit more citrus. So like more like lime. But still quite tropical. It's like a tropical jungle mixed with that fruitiness and a little bit of earthiness as well. Very interesting. Next up is Mackmyra from Sweden, and this is a 5-year-old blend of whiskies from different bourbon casks, and it sits at 50.7% ABV. Start by having a little look on the nose. Oh, this is so different. So fresh. But what is that freshness? It's quite fresh and fruity. A lot of like apples and pears. Apples and pears and pine forest. Yeah, like fresh wood and green apples. And a bit of the kind of sweet, juicy pears. Well, let's have a taste. Skål! If you have tried Whiskey, this is all those apples and pears and the really estery character of Mackmyra, but with like a layer of a little bit of an earthiness and like earthiness and a little bit of leather notes. Yeah, definitely like fresh wood and the apple pear delicious character. Whiskey is one of my favourite Mackmyras, and I think it's like captures the essence of Mackmyra, and then that you can kind of add these quirky casks or anything kind of on top of that. But Brooks is like, if you're gonna try Mackmyra, I would start with that one, unless you're a big peat fan, then I would try one of the peated expressions. But this one is like Brooks, but with more oakiness and a little bit more leather, a little bit more tannins. Let's have a little look and see what some water does. Even fresher fruits on the nose. Like more the pears coming through, I think, more than the apples. Just so juicy. Brings out a little bit more of a vegetal note. It kind of calms down the oakiness, but brings out a little bit more vegetalness. It's like a good mix between the fresh fruits, the apples, the pears, and then that oakiness. Very, very soft tannins, and they get even softer with the water, I would say. Now we're going to go on to a Swiss whiskey, and I think this is the first Swiss whiskey I have ever tasted, and I'm so excited because I've heard so much about Langatun. Or actually no, before we get to the Swiss whiskey, because I believe that one is peated, we are going to go on to our tropical ones. We're going to start with Nantou. So this is a distillery, if you've ever tried Omar whiskey, it's made at Nantou distillery in Taiwan. And this is a 4-year-old expression, bottled at 49% ABV, and it's kind of made to mimic the Scotch whisky production techniques in the 80s, which of course is really interesting. Let's see, and there's of course a very different climate in Nantou, or in Taiwan, sorry. So we'll see what that's done to it. Wow, it's so tropical, but in a very different way to the Penderyn. Penderyn now has a lot of spice on the nose. Interesting. And this one smells if you ate mango next to, like when you're polishing wood. It has a lot of that polished wood character. But also a tropical fruitiness. Does that make sense at all? But it's almost like kind of chemical notes. But the more you nose it, the less you get the chemical notes and the more you get that tropicalness. The tropical fruitiness. Now it smells almost like a sponge cake immediately when you take it out of the oven. If you had some tropical fruits in there as well. Let's have a little taste. Slàinte. Initially, this has a really different mouthfeel to the others. It's a little bit thicker. And you can taste the hot climate maturation on your palate. Because it has this lovely, hotter tropical note to it. Let's see, because I got tropical fruits on the Penderyn. Just going to compare that, but wow, it's so much papaya on the nose on this one. The Penderyn initially feels so much fresher and crisper, even though it's quite a dense tropical note, like that papaya note. Now it's back to papaya on the palate, I would say. Whereas this one's probably a bit more mango, but on the nose it's still that polishing wood notes. Even though there's an oakiness and tannins on the palate, it doesn't give me that chemical note that I get on the nose. And when you do that, so when you breathe out through your nose and you close your mouth, you get this lovely finish. Yeah, it just has a big, I don't know how to describe it. It's like tropical fruits, but it's like red fruits, and they're darker. And just that hot climate, just you can really taste that. Quite different to the palate, but I think that chemical note is very interesting. But I'd probably say that the palate's more easy to like, probably. Let's add some water, see what happens. And when I add water, I add quite a few drops just so I get quite a big change, just so I can see and compare. Usually I would maybe sit and kind of experiment with water, just add a little bit and try it again. But I don't know if you'll have the time or the patience to sit and watch me do that. Oh, that toned down the chemical notes. It's very more fresh fruits. Because before it was more that hot climate tropical fruits, and now more fresh fruits, so more towards pineapple. Very pleasant. It's toned down the oak tannins a bit, lifted the fresh fruits. I mean, if you've tried, not Cavalan Solist, but if you've tried the Cavalan, like the normal range, if you can call it that, the ones that are bottled, not at cask strength. This is a little bit, reminds me of that. But we also have another one that's been matured in a bit of a hotter climate, and that is Paul John. And this whiskey is a 6-year-old. It sits at 52.9, I think. I'll put this up here somewhere if I got it wrong. But it's a whiskey made with Indian barley, and it's, yeah, very interesting one. I've heard so many good things about Paul John recently, so I really hope I get to try more of their expressions soon. So let's start by having a little look on the nose. Wow, that was not what I was expecting. It's, I mean, it's lovely. It's, oh, I just can't find my word now. I got a little bit excited. Oh, it's almost like a lovely smokiness to it. It's like a super soft tropical tobacco smoke. I've never smoked in my life, but it's, if you romanticized tobacco smoke and it was just as soft, so it's just enough to make you feel a little bit calm and a little bit like, oh, there's something in the air that just has this enticing, just calming tropical smokiness. It mixes in with a little bit of coffee and a little bit of spice, and there is definitely like a tropical sweetness underneath, but it's just tying everything together, so it's not the dominant thing. I like that. That's a nice nose. But let's have a look on the palate. Slàinte. Whereas I think the Nantou was quite calm and quite still tropical, but in a completely different way. This is a little bit sharper, a little bit spicier, a little bit drier in a way, but just drier in a way that the spice kicks in a bit more. It's a little bit rougher in a really good way. This is the thing. When I say words, sometimes they sound like they're not good, but in my head they're good. So I just feel like I need to be better at just telling you exactly what it makes me feel. And this definitely, because if you want exactly this character, this is exactly what you should go for. Like, it's like a dry maltiness, but because it's surrounded by these juicy fruitiness and almost that soft touch of bonfire smoke. Yeah, it's like a bit like a hot climate tropical island whiskey is what it makes me think of. And the nose is absolutely gorgeous. Definitely a big flavour. Let's add some water to it as well and just see what happens. There's definitely like a bonfire smoke to it. Yeah, a little bit more fresher fruits. Like it made it a little more light and less dense. It's more like burnt or like heavily roasted coffee beans. But the coffee note is not dominant, it's just underneath the fruitiness. The fruitiness has lifted quite a lot now. Now it feels sweeter. Sweeter and more fresh fruits with the water. And now we're gonna try the Swiss whiskey. So this is a 5-year-old bottled at 51.9% ABV, made with birchwood smoked barley, and it's also been matured in Châteauneuf du Pape red wine casks. So, I mean, sounds like it will be a great start on my journey to start exploring Swiss whiskies. And I just double checked because I wasn't sure on that, so it sits at 51.2% ABV. But let's have a look on the nose. Oh, wow. So excited. I don't know, all of these just intrigues me. I love tasting whiskies like these. It's because they're all so different and they're international and they have their own thing. And I mean, guys, I'm just geeking out a bit. This nose is stunning. It's like cherry bakewells and a little whiff of kind of leather. It's so sweet and so big and like baked things as well. Like when they just come out the oven, you get this whiff of really nice sweetness. How can I describe this better? Because this is like, the nose is like biting into a really well-made sponge cake. But I'm not seeing sponge cake as in sponge cake that you put on cake. Like, I don't know, I haven't tried it really in the UK, but in Sweden, when you make a sockerkaka, basically like a sugar cake, which is I think the equivalent to a sponge cake, but it just has this almost like caramelized shell, and then it's just so moist, and it has, yeah, it's just, this is, what have they done to this whiskey? And like cinnamon buns, and it's just, oh, I need to try it now. I don't know, this blew my mind. Yeah. And it's lovely on the palate. Sweet, that kind of baking spices, a little bit of that cinnamon, a little bit of that cherry bakewell icing sugar, the sockerkaka, the kind of sponge cakeness to it, and then just that smoke that surrounds it, but very subtly. It's not overpowering. Never trust me when I talk about smoke, because I might be peat blind. But it just brings it all together. But what really surprised me is the nose. I'm amazed. It just has this lovely nose of, it's a little bit floral, but very kind of baked goods. And oh, I wish I could just send this to everyone, because I don't know how to describe it. It's so much, and it's like raspberries, like it's raspberry tart. It's like a raspberry tart. So much raspberry. Very interesting. And on the palate, it's like pine and raspberries, and a hint of that lovely floral smoke, I would say. Let's try it with some water, and then we are done. Almost goes a bit foresty now. Yeah, a little bit more woody. Less raspberries, like less fresh raspberries. But still that kind of sponge cake. I'm really impressed by this one. It's a little bit more subtle on the palate. It's smoky, but with this kind of big, it's so different, but very much like baking things. I love baking things, so I should know what it smells like. But yeah, sponge cake coming out of the oven with a little bit of smoke and like red berries. Oh, what a tasting set. I'm so grateful. Thank you to Atom Brands for sending me this set. They're all magnificent. Like your Penderyn being so much papaya on the nose. They're just so different. The Nantou being, it's kind of tropical. What's the wood kind of chemical polishing thing? Mackmyra, so much pears and apples. The Langatun with its own kind of raspberry tart thing. And then the Paul John with that tobacco smoke and the tropicalness underneath. I can't wait to see what else they're gonna do, and I know some of them are sold out already, but I kind of just want to get online and buy a bottle. The struggles of being a whiskey enthusiast, and I'm sure there's so many out there that agrees with me. But I would love to hear if you've tried any boutique whiskey company releases. Have you one that is like your personal favourite? I know they're all quite limited, so sometimes you get a bottle and then they of course sell out, but I think they're always working on really interesting things, so they're a good one to keep a track of. And of course, if you like what I'm doing here on YouTube and my other social channels, I would be absolutely over the moon if you consider using my affiliate links to the Master of Malt, of course, or the Whisky Exchange and the Scotch Malt Whisky Society the next time you're shopping with them. All the information is in the description here below, as well as links to my website, my Patreon, my Teespring shop, and my... which one did I forget? My website? My Instagram? One of them. But of course, as always, a massive thank you to my wonderful supporters on Patreon. Your support means so much, and I'm so glad you want to follow me in my whiskey journey. But I hope you've all had an absolutely wonderful day. Slán Siva, Skål.